Scott Fitzgerald, first thing every weekday morning. News Talk 680 WPTF.
Good morning. It's 6:41 at News Talk 680 WPTF. And reading articles here recently about the number of men that are taking yoga classes and getting involved in yoga is growing by leaps and bounds. Yogani joins us this morning. Good morning, Yogani.
Good morning, Scott.
Hey, appreciate you being on North Carolina's Morning News with us here today. Now, typically in the world of sports and the world of men altogether, let's take a look at it that way, they're very, very competitive. Is yoga something that can help men with their competitiveness, whether it's to be more or to be less?
Well, I think so, Scott. It's basically a practice, at least in its origins, that brings relaxation and inner peace, which, as many athletes know, is a very important element of being effective in sports, is to have that centeredness in you when you're running the race or hitting the golf ball or whatever kind of a ball you happen to be hitting.
Golf. You mentioned golf, and I know there's a lot of people that are swearing by yoga as a way to help them with their golf game. Does it go back to that inner peace like you were talking about?
Yes, I think so. And an interesting thing that's gone on in the yoga industry, if I can use that phrase, is that there's really been a sort of a meeting of the art happening over the decades with yoga. Yoga is originally a method for finding that inner peace, as I just mentioned, but it's also in our culture become somewhat a part of the mainstream of physical exercise. And so we've seen yoga coming towards the more athletic, physical culture side of what we do in our society. And at the same time, we've seen people, and both men and women, coming more toward trying to find their inner centeredness. So you have people going to yoga to get physically conditioned, and what they end up getting is finding their inner center, their inner peace, their inner silence. So there's that sort of interesting meeting going on in our culture. It's been going on for, about 3 or 4 decades now. Is
there a real difference in yoga, how it makes you look at yourself? Some people say that when they go work out, it makes them feel so much better, and they look and they feel stronger, and their pythons are growing, etc. But how does this affect your inside when you do yoga? Is there a real transformation there?
Well, yes, and postures is where it can begin. Anyone who's taken a yoga class knows that it brings relaxation. Of course, you can say the same thing about any exercise because it brings up those endorphins and brings the sort of blissful inner feelings that naturally occur when you exercise. Yoga takes it many steps further, both in terms of the physical postures that are done, and also yoga includes things like breathing exercises and meditation and so forth. So the whole strategy of yoga is to do what you just mentioned in a much more comprehensive way than perhaps just straight physical exercise.
Now, does the meditation aspect appeal more to men or to women in your experience?
Well, I think it appeals equally to both. Men and women, although they have their obvious differences, are pretty much wired the same in terms of the inner neurobiology, which is what drives the experience of developing inner silence and that inner center. Men tend to be more goal-oriented and more aggressive in general, at least historically. So I think the field of yoga historically has been dominated by men, but what we see now is a lot more activity by women, and that's actually been true throughout history. But the way cultures have been, many societies have been dominated by men, and now we're seeing a shift toward more balance, and that's certainly true in the pursuit of yoga as well.
One of the things
thank goodness.
One of the things I see as a quote is, it changed my life. And how would an exercise or breathing or meditation change somebody's life?
Well, because you're beginning to slow down the metabolism during the practice, and that slows down the breathing and relaxes the mind. And then when you go back out into your regular activity, you bring that relaxation with you, and it becomes a part of you, and that can change your life for sure. It can make you more stable in stressful situations. It can bring you more clarity. in creative endeavors or in terms of your work or whatever you're doing. So, yeah, it definitely can change your life, especially if you bring in other elements of yoga, such as meditation.
Now, where would somebody go online to find out more information about this if they're not just ready to go dive into a posture class locally? They want to kind of do it on the sly.
Well, I have a website where there are over 300 free lessons covering the full scope of yoga, and that address is aypsite.org. That's aypsite.org, and that's a large website that's been going on since 2003, and there are thousands of people there, and you can get your toe in the water there. And the postures obviously can't really be taught on a website. You should go to your local yoga studio for that, but many other aspects of yoga and how they connect are discussed on that website in great detail.
Okay, AYPsite, SITE.org. Yogani, appreciate your time. Looking forward to getting more centered and carrying that unshakableness through the rest of the day. And Lord knows, in the economy and the world that we're in right now, that certainly could be a valuable thing. At 6:48, traffic and AccuWeather together, plus your morning rush update coming up on News Talk 680 WPTF.